Hey, time for another out-of-this-world story from our space. There's nothing like a weekend camping trip to strengthen bonds or break them. Today on our space, a friend with his eyes on more than just Opie's friendship takes center stage. I found out my wife is cheating with my friend. My wife, 30 female, and I, 30 male. Just returned from a long weekend camping trip with two other couples, friends we've known for years. The trip was amazing, but something happened on the morning we were leaving that I just can't shake. We were all packing up to head home. I was loading our car when I looked up and saw my wife and my friend at the campsite a few feet away. She bent down to pick something up, and in a split second, I saw him reach out and squeeze her hip, sliding his hand down her butt. My wife quickly pushed his hand away, but she didn't look upset. Instead, she was smiling at him, almost playfully. It all happened so fast, just a second or two, but it felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I glanced around, but no one else seemed to have seen it. His wife was busy packing their car, and the other couple was further away, chatting about the ride back. The drive home was quiet. My wife tried to make conversation, but I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying that scene over and over. When she asked why I was so quiet, I lied and said I was thinking about work. The truth was, I was in shock. I didn't want to bring it up. What if she told me I was imagining things? What if she said I was being ridiculous? The rest of the day felt like I was on autopilot. I barely slept that night and could hardly focus at work the next day. My mind kept racing, questioning every detail. Aside from what I saw, the rest of the trip was great, and nothing else seemed off. A part of me wondered if I read the situation wrong. But that look on her face, that smile, it was too friendly, too casual for something that crossed a line. I love my wife to death. We've been together since freshman year of college, and I've never doubted her before. She's my best friend. But now, for the first time, I have this knot in my gut that I can't untangle. I've never been the type to snoop. I've always trusted her completely. But right now, I'm sitting here wondering if I should check her phone. It's password protected. So even if I wanted to, I wouldn't know how to do it without her finding out. I found her iPad and it didn't have a password. It's still connected to her phone, and she has Telegram on it. They've been chatting there. I'm still going through the messages, but she is cheating. I'm not falling apart yet. I'm trying to keep it together and make the next correct move without messing this up. What should I do? Should I confront her when she gets home? Should I go to his house and confront him? Please help. Thank you for your advice. I haven't told her anything yet. I locked myself in my home office, pretending to catch up on work. She's not suspicious. I kept the iPad with me since she hasn't used it in a long time and won't notice it's missing. I took pictures of their messages using my phone as a safety measure. They've been chatting for at least 8 months, as far as I can tell. Telegram seems to be their main way of communicating. They've sent each other explicit messages, photos, and even made plans to leave me and his wife to be together officially. She even sent him a suggestive photo on her way to the gym earlier tonight. When she came home, she started kissing me and wanted sex. I declined, saying I had work to do. I feel confused and unable to think clearly, so I'm following the advice I've received. Lawyer up and gather evidence. I've also seen comments about separating finances. We co-own the apartment we live in and have joint bank accounts. My parents passed away 2 years ago in a car crash, leaving me a large inheritance. She knows about it, but doesn't have access to that account. Do I need to take steps to protect that money? I work from home sometimes and had no meetings this morning, so I spent time researching and calling lawyers. I have 2 consultations lined up for tomorrow, though most couldn't see me until next week. I've decided to tell his wife and show her the proof after I secure a lawyer. I'll give her time to get her affairs in order and find her own lawyer before deciding on my next move, such as confronting my wife. I don't even know how I feel right now. I'm not angry, more numb and sick when I think about the messages I've read. It feels like I'm living someone else's life. I'm just doing what I need to do, but it's like I'm on autopilot. Guys, I'm humbled by all the advice and support. Nothing much has changed since yesterday. I'm keeping myself busy with work and the gym. The anniversary of my parents' passing is in a month, and my wife knows this. When she asked why I seemed off, I told her I was thinking about them. I have consultations with several lawyers lined up, most for next week, but a few this afternoon. I'll update after I settle on a lawyer and know what my options are. You're absolutely right about gathering evidence and consulting a lawyer. Seeing my friend touch her and that unsettling smile she gave him confirmed that my instincts weren't wrong. I'm not overreacting. Something about that interaction set off alarm bells. Her reaction wasn't one of discomfort or setting boundaries, like a stop it or what the hell vibe you'd expect if someone overstepped. Instead, she seemed fine with it, which would make any partner question things. I found an incredible lawyer who managed to draft my divorce papers within days. They were filed this morning. Since I live in a no-fault jurisdiction, the evidence I gathered about the infidelity can't be used in court. The good news is that my inheritance is safe because I never used it for marital expenses. Our condo was a wedding gift, with both our parents contributing equally to the down payment. One of us will need to buy the other out, or we'll have to sell it and split the proceeds. On Saturday, I called the other betrayed spouse's wife and asked to meet her for coffee. I chose that day because, ironically, her husband and my wife had gone on an overnight trip together. From the messages on the iPad, I knew their fabricated story. My wife claimed she was staying at her sister's house to help with the kids while her sister's husband was on a business trip. Meanwhile, her husband told his wife he was going out of town for a work-related project. The truth? They were together at a hotel, paid for by my so-called friend. When I met her, I showed her the messages, including photos and everything else I had found. She was devastated. She said her husband had been distant and withdrawn for months, but she thought it was just work stress. She had no reason to suspect infidelity. Learning that not only was he cheating but with my wife, who was supposed to be her friend, was a hard blow. We talked for a while, and I gave her my lawyer's contact information so she could explore her options. On Sunday night, my wife returned home from her sister's house. She greeted me with kisses, saying she missed me after spending the weekend with her lover. Her ability to compartmentalize is almost diabolical. I sat her down and told her we needed to talk. Following my lawyer's advice, I recorded the entire conversation. I live in a one-party consent state. I started by asking her to promise to be honest with me. She hesitated but said, "Of course, baby." She seemed nervous. Then I asked her a series of questions. "Do you love me?" "Yes." "Are you happy with me?" "Yes, of course, baby." "Have I been a good husband?" "Do I treat you right?" "Yes and yes." "Have I ever done anything to hurt you, physically or emotionally?" "No, of course not." "What the F?" Then I hit her with the big question. "So, if you're happy with me, then why are you cheating on me?" She stared at me in shock for a solid minute before she began denying it. This went on for a while, until I told her to stop lying, because I already knew the truth. Eventually, she broke down and admitted to kissing a guy who had hit on her at a bar during a night out with friends months ago. She claimed it was a one-time thing, that she was drunk and it meant nothing. At that point, I started laughing. It wasn't funny, it was absurd. Not only had she cheated, but she had taken every opportunity she could find to do so. I asked if that was the only time she'd cheated. She swore it was. I said nothing. I handed her my lawyer's business card and told her I was filing for divorce. I hadn't yet. I wanted to talk to her first to see if there was anything left in our marriage to salvage. Then I told her if she wanted to reach me, she could contact my lawyer. She cried, begged, and apologized. When I started packing a suitcase, she shifted to gaslighting, accusing me of throwing away our marriage over a mistake. The worst part was when she said, "You have no one else in the world. Why would you leave the only family you have left?" That stung. I had told her she was my only remaining family after my parents passed, and to have her use those words against me was cruel. I left that night and checked into a hotel. Yesterday, I officially filed for divorce. To clarify a few things, I didn't tell her I knew about the affair. When she confessed to kissing a random guy at a bar, I let it go at that moment. Later, she found out that I knew everything because the other betrayed spouse confronted her husband and then called my wife, letting her have it. I don't blame her. She was devastated. Her husband's behavior was disgusting. While she was dealing with her sick mother and traveling to care for her, he was using that time to sleep with my wife. For me, it wasn't about the bar confession versus the affair with my friend. It was a realization that my wife had been actively looking for ways to cheat. I was too angry to confront her further at that moment, so I left. It wasn't easy, but I knew it was the right decision. When I left the house, she kept calling me that night and leaving messages. After the other betrayed spouse confronted her husband and then called my wife the next day, my wife stopped trying to reach me. It's been radio silence from both of them since then. I put two and two together. When the betrayed spouse messaged me to say she had confronted her husband and called my wife, the calls from my wife stopped. Thank you all for the support and advice. Taking a step back, moving out, and filing for divorce were the best decisions to protect myself emotionally and legally. Now that everything is in motion, I can finally focus on my own healing without questioning every detail of her lies. Some updates from the last time I posted. My wife was served the divorce papers last week. I'm still staying at the hotel, and I've almost found a new apartment. When I left the house, I forgot to take the iPad with me, but I picked it up when I went back a couple of days later to grab some clothes and other essentials. It seems my wife had a fallout with her friend, the one who was with her at the bar when she kissed the guy. Apparently, she accused her friend of being the one who told me about the kiss. Her friend is no longer speaking to her. After everything went down, his wife kicked him out, and he's now staying at his sister's place. She and I have been talking. She found a lawyer and is filing for divorce too. She informed the few mutual friends we have about the situation, and they've all cut contact with both my wife and her husband. Here's something that hit me hard. My so-called friend has been staying with my wife and even spent the night at our place twice last week. My wife has also been messaging her sister, who apparently knew about the affair. Her sister supported her throughout this and even helped her find a lawyer. My wife was complaining to her sister that her lawyer told her she has no claim to my inheritance. She thought that was unfair. Now, here's the gut punch. The conversations my wife had with him about getting an apartment together and making their relationship official have cooled off significantly since her meeting with her lawyer. A few days ago, I got a message from her asking if we could pause the divorce proceedings. She said she loves me, that we're both being crazy about this, and that everyone deserves a second chance. She even hit me with, "I can't live without you." If I didn't have the iPad and all the messages, I might have believed she was genuinely remorseful. But knowing what she's been up to all week, I could see this sudden change of heart only came after realizing she wouldn't be entitled to a cent of my inheritance. Honestly, that realization hurt more than anything else. I'm following my lawyer's advice and haven't responded to her. The more I think about it, the more disgusted I feel, not just with her, but with him and her sister. I always intended to use that inheritance to set up a trust fund for our kids if we had them. I kept the money untouched because it reminded me of the trauma of losing my parents. My wife knew how much that money meant to me. The level of disrespect she's shown, not just to me but also to my parents, who loved her like a daughter, is beyond comprehension. I'm just glad my parents aren't here to witness this betrayal. Over the weekend, I met up with his wife. She's my friend too, and she's been going through a rough time, especially with her mom's health issues on top of all this. I told her about the messages. Long story short, she had been reconsidering the divorce after her husband tried to reconcile. But once I showed her the messages about my inheritance and pointed out how their plans had cooled off, she saw things differently. She also shared something that struck me. A few months after my parents passed, her husband made a comment about how I was a lucky son of a bitch for inheriting their money. She confronted him at the time, shocked he would say something like that after my loss. He backtracked, saying he didn't mean it that way, and she let it go. Now, she's second-guessing his motives. It's starting to look like their plan was to take advantage of my inheritance and start a new life together. I've been doing my best to take care of myself. I started therapy, and I've been going to the gym almost obsessively. I'm also trying to avoid alcohol as much as possible. I'm putting on a strong exterior, but it's tough. Some friends have even said it's a little scary how cold and detached I become, but it's the only way I can get through my day without breaking down. Nights are the hardest. I struggle with sleep, and sometimes I drink to help numb the pain. I'm not proud of it. Some nights, I cry myself to sleep. I won't be posting further updates in the near future unless something significant happens. If I do need support, I'll use a different space for that. My next update will likely come once the divorce is finalized, which could take months. Thank you all for the advice and support. It's honestly unbelievable how low my wife and this so-called friend have stooped. For her to go from infidelity to suddenly begging for a second chance only after realizing she won't get a penny from my inheritance shows how little respect she's ever had for me or our relationship. His behavior is equally disturbing, especially his past comment about my parents' money. It's hard not to wonder if they were both seeing dollar signs the whole time. The cold exterior I've developed isn't a flaw. It's a survival tool. It's helping me get through each day, but I know I can't be a rock forever. I'm trying to hold on one day at a time.